Thank you to Simon for letting me use his car and trusting me not to crash.
What's up, fellow drivers? It's been a couple years since I did a review of the SW20. Now it's time for me to review a Spyder. And I want to answer 3 questions in this video. Is it dailyable? Is it fast? And is it worth buying? Let's check it out. So this is a 2003 MR2 Spyder, also known as the MRS in a lot of the world, and to probably most MR2 enthusiasts. And it's a rear-wheel drive, mid-engine car that is a manual with a 5-speed transmission. 2003 also means that it's the facelift model, came with various small improvements to it. And the Spyder might be the least loved generation. However, it is getting more popular. It's also the only one that's a convertible, which, well, that's only half true. Technically, there were convertibles of the other ones, but the MR2 Spyder is the only one that is only a convertible, I should say. It's also the lightest and the most nimble, despite the sort of negative connotation of being a roadster and sort of enthusiasts traditionally not liking convertible cars. It's also definitely the least practical, but more on that later. So going back to it being very light and nimble, let's talk about the handling of this car. It handles extremely well. I would say it's very confidence-inspiring. I can whip around these tight turns without any feeling of the supposed snap oversteer that MR2s are known for. And this is something that's probably going to shock the internet and keyboard warriors that haven't really driven one much. It actually tends toward understeer. Now, for most driving, it's probably just going to feel very neutral, but when you're really pushing it to the limit, it will definitely understeer. I've experienced it myself on really tight hairpins, and I've driven quite a bit behind one and observed how it handles, and I've seen it understeer around corners as well. But just because it does understeer slightly at the absolute limit does not mean it's a bad handling car by any means. I can take these turns very quickly without any problem. The car does excellently on track, and it's due to that really lightweight chassis. I'm getting a lot of information through the steering wheel. And the understeer, I believe, can be solved pretty easily with a different tire setup. So it comes with staggered tires, and it definitely doesn't do it any favors. And I believe the fastest setup on track is to go with a square setup. I just feel like I have absolutely no weight or inertia at all. Okay, but enough about the handling. Let's talk about power. Let's just say you need to rely on that handling. Okay? Keep your momentum up. Now, I won't say the car feels really slow, but you definitely want to wind it out. And the chassis, again, is really what's helping it, right? So it's so light that it doesn't need a whole lot of power to move. But it does make only 138 horsepower, not a lot of torque, and you feel it. You know, if you try and actually do like a pull on the freeway or going uphill like now, you know, you're foot to the floor much of the time. So again, the car is light enough, it's geared low, it has great handling. It's not that you can't get the performance out of it, but you know, it's more that the engine is kind of going along for the ride and being complemented by everything else, rather than the engine pulling you up the hill. Shifter feel is good. It's very precise feeling. It's easy to heel toe. I like these metal pedals that it comes with. A very popular upgrade for it, if you do want more power, is the 2ZZ swap. And I believe it is a pretty, relatively inexpensive plug-and-play setup as far as swaps go. However, if you do the 2ZZ swap, I don't have any personal experience with it, but from what I understand, you definitely want to swap it with the 6-speed transmission that goes with it normally in the Celica. Because if you keep the 5-speed, when you shift, you're going to go out of lift and you kind of defeat the purpose of having that 2ZZ. Also, just quick note, going back to the shifting again, clutch is very light, it's very manageable. You can sit in traffic with this thing without any problem. Your leg isn't going to get tired at all. And just makes for an easy, enjoyable drive up here in the mountains. Brakes feel good. The brakes are a very basic 4-wheel disc brake setup. Nothing fancy. I think it's single piston all around. But again, going back to the fact that the car is so light, just got a little bit of understeer there. I don't know if you guys can tell that on camera. But the car is so light, you don't really need a brake upgrade. Of course, if you're going to track the car, like I would say with any car, you probably want to upgrade the brake pads and definitely go for a better brake fluid like .4. And I am able to get the tail to come out a little bit on some of these. It just needs a little bit of a kick. You can kind of brake going into the turn to load up the front. And you can use the traction from the mid-engine to accelerate quickly out of that turn. Man, I'm having a lot of fun with this car, I gotta be honest. I can see why these cars are starting to become more popular. This is the second time I'm driving this particular car, and this is the second MR2 Spyder that I've driven. And I first drove it way back in the day. A friend of mine had it when I first bought my SW20. And I think the more experienced of a driver I am, the more I'm actually appreciating the MR2 Spyder. Getting a little bit of understeer around that turn there. So I think with this car, kind of the thing is, it's so light and easy to handle and just such good response, very tactile controls, that it's really all about managing understeer versus oversteer and maintaining your speed through the turns. Use the lightweight to your advantage. The tires it comes with are very small. All right, but slowing down just a little bit here, let's talk about practicality. It's not very practical. I think it gets pretty good fuel economy. That said, by modern standards, there are cars that even get a lot better fuel economy. Shift up here just to shut it up a little bit. And it literally has no trunk, okay? So this is the least practical of all 3 generations of MR2 because there is no trunk. You have a bit of space up front. However, the car comes with a full-size spare, which takes up a lot of the space in the frunk. So you don't really have a whole lot of room there, but you can put some tools or maybe like one bag up there if you want. The main storage is going to come from these cubbies behind the seats. They're not huge, but they're probably what you would use most of the time if you want to secure like a backpack or a purse. Also, maybe you can put your grocery bags in there if you don't just put them on the floor in front of the passenger seat. It has some kind of interesting quirks. So for instance, the window switches aren't over on the door. They're actually here in the center next to the emergency brake. And just everything about the car is very small. You know, you can tell that Toyota's trying to maximize the space. I'm not a very big person, you know. I have a pretty slim profile, so I feel completely roomy in here, but I could definitely see how some people could feel tight. Your shoulders are going to be pretty close to your passenger. As far as just some other daily drivable, usable type things go, like noise, it doesn't have a lot of insulation. I'm going to pull over right here. It doesn't have a lot of insulation, so you do get a fair bit of road noise, okay? And I'm sure you guys can probably notice that even through the video. You hear a lot of the engine, even though the exhaust isn't really that loud. Also, when you're on the freeway, you do get a fair bit of just general, you know, road and tire and whatever. That said, the roof is surprisingly quiet. I don't get a lot of buffeting from it or like whistling around it, so points for that compared to some convertibles. Operating the convertible is fairly simple. It just has these two clips over here on each side. This particular one has a little hang up. It gets kind of snagged on the edge and you have to help it in there. But otherwise, it's pretty quick and easy to use. It's not powered, it's completely manual. Okay, so let's talk about those 3 questions that I wanted to answer at the beginning of the video. Is it dailyable? Maybe. I would say mostly no. For most people, probably not. You know, if you're a young single person, you know, you're not married, you don't have kids, you don't have to move a lot of stuff, you know, then fine. But honestly, even in that situation, there's probably going to be situations where you need to borrow a friend's car that at least has a bigger trunk or back seat. If you need to move or haul anything, it's just not going to happen in this car. So, especially if you have a family, obviously, this would definitely be a second car. It's not that you couldn't daily the car, you know, it's going to have low operating cost and things like that, but it's just not going to fit a lot of needs that will probably come up if it's your only car. Second question, is it fast? Well, the engine is not powerful, right? We said that. That said, yes, it is fast. I can tell you that with a skilled driver, this car is very hard to keep up with and can put down some great times on the track. Even if you think there's a more powerful, more capable car, don't underestimate what Lotus's philosophy is, which is the simplify and add lightness. That really is true here in this Toyota. Maybe did that just as good as the Elise. In fact, a lot of people kind of look at this as kind of a budget Elise, and it definitely lives up to that reputation. So yes, I would say it is fast. If you're talking about doing highway pulls, no, it's going to be really slow. And is it worth buying? Yes, right now I would say if you're watching when this video came out, it is worth buying. Prices are actually already starting to creep up on this. As I mentioned, it is getting more popular. And I would say if you can find a good condition one, I would definitely pick it up. I'm not saying this is going to hugely grow in value or become a collector's car, but I don't think you're going to find it cheaper in the future anytime in the next, 4, 5, 6 years. So yes, I would say it's worth buying. It's a super fun car. It's really capable up here in the canyons. It's easy to drive. It's comfortable. I guess that's all I can say about it. I would give this car great marks. And thank you to Simon for letting me use his car. And thank you to you guys for watching. Please give the video a thumbs up. Leave a comment. Let me know if there's any questions you have about this car that I didn't answer in this video. And thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Is that a Porsche joke or a thought joke?